The world will control you if you don't. Listen to me. If you don't get control of your own mind, this world will do it for you, and it won't be gentle. If you don't learn how to prioritize yourself, distractions, negativity, and other people's voices will decide how you live, what you do, and who you become. It's easy to fall into the trap, looking for approval, craving likes, waiting for someone to say you're on the right path. But that's a dangerous game, because the second you start chasing that outside validation, you hand over your power. You stop being the one behind the wheel. You stop shaping your own life, and instead you become a copy of what others want you to be. So let me ask you something. When was the last time you actually sat down alone? No noise, no scrolling, no music, and listened to yourself. Just you and your thoughts, your needs, your dreams, not what your friends think you should want, not what social media says you should chase, just what you actually want deep down. Most people never do it. They're afraid of what they'll find. They're scared that silence will bring out the truth. And maybe it will. Maybe you'll realize you're wasting your time on things that don't matter, that you're living for someone else. But that's not something to run from, it's something to face. Because here's the truth: the more you focus on yourself, the stronger your mind becomes. The more you learn to control your thoughts, the more power you gain over your own life. Discipline isn't just about waking up early or going to the gym, it starts with your mind. If you don't train your thinking, everything else falls apart. And no, you don't need anyone's permission to grow. You don't need someone to say, go ahead before you start changing your life. You just need the guts to do it, the courage to turn off the noise and turn up your focus. And if you want to build a strong, unshakable mindset, the first step is cutting out the chaos. The world is loud, it's messy, and it will pull you in every direction except the one you're meant to go. People will always have something to say about your choices, your path, your goals, your pace. And if you start listening to every voice, you'll drown in opinions. You'll start second guessing everything. You'll start shrinking. You'll start wondering, what if they're right? What if I'm dreaming too big? Maybe I should just play it safe like everyone else. That's the trap. That's how people get stuck, living lives that don't even belong to them, following routines that don't match their soul, waking up every day feeling empty but too afraid to do something about it. The moment you stop listening to yourself and start listening to everyone else, you give away your power. That's when you lose. That's when life starts happening to you instead of because of you. And here's something else to understand: noise isn't just people's opinions. Noise is also the little things that steal your focus every single day. The apps, the mindless scrolling, the fake drama, the never ending comments, all of it is noise. Every time your phone buzzes, every time you get pulled into something that doesn't feed your growth, that's your energy slipping away. That's your mind getting cluttered with junk. That's the stuff that keeps you from thinking clearly, from dreaming big, from moving forward. Ask yourself, when was the last time you sat in silence and let your thoughts speak? No background noise, no playlist, no podcast, just silence. Most people can't do it. They've been trained to stay distracted. They can't be still because they're afraid of what they'll feel, afraid of what the silence might reveal. But real growth, that happens in those quiet moments. That's where you meet yourself. Because when all the distractions are gone, when you're not pretending, when there's no one to impress, what's left? That's the real you. That's the version of you that's been buried under noise. And that's the version that has all the answers. But as long as you avoid silence, you avoid the truth. You keep running from your reflection. You keep numbing the discomfort, and you never fix what actually needs fixing. This is why the strongest people, the ones who rise, the ones who stay steady, they aren't just physically tough. They've trained their minds to be still. They've learned how to sit with their own thoughts without running. And that makes them dangerous. That makes them powerful, because nothing can shake someone who knows who they are and where they're going. And so if you're tired of feeling stuck, if you're done living for other people's opinions, if you're ready to stop handing your time, your peace, and your identity to the outside world, then you need to start here. Turn everything off, sit with yourself, listen, because the world will never stop being loud. The opinions will keep coming, the distractions won't disappear. But if you learn how to control your inner world, if you learn how to sit in silence and reconnect with your vision, then none of that noise can touch you. And that's how you start becoming unshakable. People are scared of silence, not because it's boring, not because there's nothing going on, but because silence forces them to face what they've been running from. And let's be real, most people aren't ready for that. We live in a world where noise is constant. There's always something playing, pinging, buzzing, or grabbing your attention. You wake up and reach for your phone. You scroll before you even stretch. You fill your ears with music, videos, opinions all day long. And what's left at the end? A mind that's overwhelmed and a soul that's empty. Silence isn't empty. It's loud, but not in the way you think. In silence, your thoughts speak up. Your real thoughts, the ones you've been pushing down, avoiding, ignoring. That's why it feels uncomfortable, because it's raw, it's honest, it's real, and real is hard. And that's why most people can't sit still. They fear what their own mind might tell them, so they distract themselves. They drown out the quiet with more and more noise. They can't go 5 minutes without grabbing their phone. They need something, anything to keep from feeling them. But that need to avoid discomfort, that's what keeps them stuck. That's what blocks growth. You can't grow if you're always escaping. You can't fix your life if you're never willing to face it. Look, silence shows you who you are. It holds up a mirror. It reminds you of what you've ignored, the bad habits, the missed goals, the choices that didn't serve you. That's why it's powerful, because it doesn't lie to you. It forces you to deal with your reality, not your distractions. And guess what? That's where strength is born. Sitting in silence is like going to the gym for your mind. At first, it hurts. You're fidgety, restless. Your brain wants to run. But if you push through that, if you stay with it long enough, that's when clarity shows up. That's when you finally hear what your gut's been trying to tell you, that you're not happy in that job, that you're wasting time with the wrong people, that your goals are sitting on a shelf gathering dust, that you need to stop pretending and start living. And none of that comes to you when your brain is full of noise. It only comes when you pause, when you breathe, when you strip away the nonsense and sit face to face with your truth. This is why silence isn't weakness. It's discipline, it's self-control, it's power. And the thing is, most people are afraid of being alone. They think being alone means they're unloved, that they're broken. But solitude isn't loneliness, it's strength. It's the space where you get to rebuild yourself without anyone else's input. And think about it. Every major breakthrough in your life, every moment where you made a decision that changed things, came when you finally got quiet, when you stopped asking everyone else what they thought and started trusting your own gut. That's not a coincidence. That's wisdom, but it takes practice. Just like you train your body, you got to train your mind. You have to create space in your day, just 5-10 minutes, to shut everything out and be still. Let your thoughts come. Don't run from them. Let them rise. Let them speak. And then choose which ones deserve your energy. You don't have to react to every emotion. You don't have to believe every thought, but you do have to face them. Because here's what silence will do. It'll teach you how much noise you've been tolerating. It'll make you realize that half the stuff you worry about doesn't even matter, that most of your stress is coming from things that don't serve you, that you've been trying to please people who wouldn't even notice if you disappeared. That awareness, that's everything. Once you start recognizing what's real and what's noise, your whole life shifts. You stop wasting energy. You stop chasing things that don't fulfill you. You stop letting the world decide your worth. You begin to lead your life, not follow it. And people will notice. They'll wonder why you're so calm, why you're not reacting like you used to, why you don't explain yourself as much. But that's what silence teaches you, to stop explaining and just be. You don't need to justify your peace. You don't need to argue with noise. You just need to protect your mental space like your life depends on it, because it does. Silence is the space where real direction is found, where confidence is built, where your next steps become clear. It's also where healing happens. When you stop numbing your pain with distractions, you give yourself the chance to actually process what's hurt you, to feel it, to understand it, and finally to let it go. That's why silence is scary for most people, because it forces them to confront what they thought they buried. But let me tell you something, burying it doesn't make it go away. It just grows in the dark and waits for the right moment to come back stronger. Facing it in silence, that's how you take its power away. So stop fearing the quiet. Learn to sit with it. Learn to trust it, Because in a world that's constantly screaming for your attention, the real power belongs to the one who can sit still and stay focused. You don't need the world's noise to feel alive. You need your own clarity. And that clarity comes from silence. You can't grow while running from yourself. And let's be honest, most people aren't tired because they work too hard. They're tired because they spend their entire lives running from thoughts, from truth, from silence, from themselves. You ever wonder why people keep their schedules packed? Why they always need some kind of background noise, some screen, some escape? Because being still would mean having to deal with what's real. And a lot of people would rather stay busy than face the truth sitting quietly in the back of their mind. They run from silence because silence shows them everything they've tried to avoid. They avoid thinking about their bad habits. They avoid the fact that they've wasted months or years doing things that don't bring meaning. They avoid the guilt of knowing they've stayed in the wrong relationship, worked a job they hate, or neglected their dreams. So they bury it under distractions, under noise, under whatever they can find. But here's the hard truth. You can't grow if you're always running. You can't evolve into the person you're supposed to become if you're constantly escaping the one you are right now. Growth doesn't happen in hiding. It happens in honesty. It happens when you stop pretending everything's fine and actually deal with what's not. There comes a point where you have to stop distracting yourself and face yourself. No more, I'm just tired. And no more, I'll start next week. No more, it's not that bad. Like, that's not growth, that's delay. You can't expect to change your life while avoiding the very thing that needs changing. You can't expect peace while refusing to deal with what's causing your chaos. The longer you avoid it, the deeper it grows. The longer you pretend, the more trapped you feel. That feeling of being stuck, of waking up with zero drive and going to bed with regret, that's not life punishing you. That's your soul begging you to stop running. And here's the most dangerous part. The longer you live in avoidance, the more normal it starts to feel. You forget what it's like to be clear. You forget what it feels like to be aligned. You adjust to confusion. You adjust to chaos. And before you know it, you've accepted a life that doesn't even feel like yours, but there's a better way. And it starts with one brave moment of stillness, one honest conversation with yourself. You don't need a retreat. You don't need to disappear for a year. You just need to stop right where you are and face what you've been avoiding. And ask yourself, well, what am I doing right now that I know I need to stop? What have I been carrying that I should have let go of long ago? What pain have I ignored that's still shaping my choices? What dreams have I buried because fear made me believe they were too big? Don't rush the answers. Let them come, and don't judge yourself for them. This isn't about shame. It's about clarity. The strongest minds aren't built through comfort. They're built through confrontation. They're built by facing hard truths, even when it hurts, especially when it hurts. You become powerful the moment you stop lying to yourself, because once you've faced your truth, nobody can use it against you. Once you've owned your mistakes, they lose their power to define you. Once you admit where you've gone wrong, you give yourself the power to choose something better. That's what growth really is. Not perfection, not pretending you've got it all together, but honesty, courage, willingness to step into discomfort and stay there long enough to change. Most people don't do this. Most people stay distracted until life forces them to change, until the pain becomes unbearable, until they hit rock bottom. Don't be one of them. Don't wait for the collapse. Choose growth before pain makes you do it. And look, life isn't going to give you peace just because you ask for it. You have to create it. And that starts with facing the things that are stealing your peace in the first place. Maybe it's your habits. Maybe it's your environment. Maybe it's the story you keep telling yourself about why you can't. Whatever it is, you have to stop avoiding it and deal with it. Because as long as you keep running from it, it owns you. You can scroll, you can binge, you can keep telling yourself, I'm fine, but deep down, you'll know you're not. And that knowing, that quiet inner voice, it doesn't go away. It just gets quieter until one day you don't even recognize yourself. But when you finally stop, when you sit down and say, okay, let's deal with this, that's when the real change starts. You'll feel scared, you'll feel exposed, you'll probably cry, but you'll also feel something else, freedom, strength, a sense of coming back to yourself. This is how healing begins, not with noise, not with running, but with facing. And once you do that, your path becomes clearer, not easier, but clearer. You start making decisions from a place of power, not panic. You start showing up as the real you, not the version you've created to keep people comfortable. And you stop needing to escape. Because the moment you stop running from yourself is the moment you start running toward your real life. So if you feel tired, ask yourself, what am I running from? If you feel stuck, ask yourself, what have I been avoiding? If you feel lost, ask yourself, when was the last time I sat in silence and listened to my own truth? You don't need more motivation. You need honesty. You don't need a perfect plan. You need the courage to stop pretending and start facing, because nothing changes until you do. The wrong voices will kill your dreams. Let's clear something up right now. Not every voice in your life deserves your attention. Some voices are feeding your growth, others are poisoning it. And if you're not careful, you'll start mistaking noise for truth and opinions for facts. That's how dreams die, not all at once, but slowly, word by word, comment by comment, doubt by doubt. It starts small. You're excited. You've got a plan. You're moving different. Then someone you barely know says, that's risky. A friend says, are you sure? A family member says, you don't want to fail, do you? And suddenly you pause, you hesitate, you wonder, what if they're right? And just like that, you're off track, not because you failed, but because you let someone else's fear become your truth. Here's the thing. Most people aren't trying to hurt you, but they don't know your vision. They don't feel what you feel, and they definitely don't see what you see. They speak from their own limitations, from their own fear, from their own regrets. So when they say that's impossible, they're not talking about you. They're talking about themselves. But if you let those voices get loud, they'll start planting seeds, seeds that say, you're not ready. You're not enough. You should just settle. And if you water those seeds, if you entertain those doubts, they'll grow into beliefs. And those beliefs will kill your momentum. They'll rob you of your drive. They'll convince you to shrink. And that's why you've got to protect your mind like it's under attack, because it is. Every day, you're surrounded by people who project their limitations onto you. Some do it with concern, some do it with jealousy, and some don't even realize they're doing it. But either way, it's your job to filter what you allow in, because if you don't, those voices will shape your entire life. They'll influence what you chase. They'll define what you believe is possible. And before you know it, you're not even living your own life anymore. You're living a version that fits their comfort. Don't let that happen, and start asking the hard question: is this voice pushing me forward or holding me back? Because not every opinion is equal. Not every person has earned the right to speak into your life. And not every piece of advice is meant for you. Some people only show up when you start shining, not to support, but to control. They'll smile at your ideas while slowly tearing them down, not because they don't want you to win, but because they're afraid of what your success says about their comfort zone. Understand this: when you grow, you challenge people. You force them to look at their own choices. And not everyone wants to be reminded of the things they gave up on. And that's why they'll tell you to slow down, to think twice, to be realistic. But let's be real. Being realistic is just another way of saying play it safe. Safe doesn't build greatness. Safe doesn't change lives. Safe doesn't make you proud when you look back. So stop letting people who've settled tell you how to live. Stop letting people who gave up on their dreams talk you out of yours. You need to surround yourself with voices that challenge you, that believe in your potential even when you doubt it, that don't let you settle for average just because it's easy, because the wrong voices will drain you. The wrong voices will keep you small, and the wrong voices will make failure feel safer than trying. But the right voices, they'll remind you who you are. They'll push you when you're tired. They'll call you out when you start playing weak. You don't need 100 cheerleaders. You just need a few people who believe in your vision, even when you can't see it yourself. And if you don't have those people right now, that's okay. Be that voice for yourself. Talk to yourself like someone you care about. Remind yourself why you started. Speak life into your goals when the world goes quiet. Because at the end of the day, you are the gatekeeper of your mind. You decide what stays. You decide what gets cut off. You decide whose voice gets to shape your future. So if someone's voice makes you feel weak, doubtful, or discouraged, shut it out. That's not ego. That's survival. There are people out there who will never understand your purpose. And that's fine. They weren't assigned to it. It's not their job to see your vision. It's your job to protect it. And protecting it means being ruthless about what you allow into your mental space, even if that means creating distance, even if that means cutting ties, even if that means walking alone for a while, because your future depends on it. You can't afford to let fear led opinions shape your next move. You can't build something meaningful while constantly seeking approval. And you can't grow if you're always trying to make everyone else comfortable. The truth is, some people are only comfortable when you stay stuck. Because if you rise, they'll have to look at their own excuses. And they don't want to do that. And so they'll try to keep you where they are, not out of hate, but out of habit. Don't fall for it. Silence the wrong voices. Turn down the volume on doubt and turn up the voice inside you, the one that says, I can, I will, watch me. Because that voice, the one that comes from within, is the one that builds greatness. Some people want you to stay small. Here's something most people won't tell you. Some people don't want you to grow, not because you're not capable, not because your dreams are wrong, but because your growth makes them uncomfortable. It's not always hate. It's not always jealousy. Sometimes it's fear. Sometimes it's insecurity. Sometimes it's the quiet panic people feel when someone close to them starts rising and they realize they've been standing still. Growth is a mirror. When you start leveling up, the people around you start seeing their own reflection more clearly. And if they don't like what they see, they'll try to pull you back down, not always directly, but in little ways. They'll throw in jokes that sting. They'll question your every move and they'll downplay your progress. And they'll talk behind your back just loud enough that it reaches you. Not everyone claps when you win. Some people get nervous. Some people wonder what happens to the friendship when you're no longer struggling together. Some people liked you better when you doubted yourself because it made them feel better about not trying. And that's the truth. You've probably felt it. You share good news, and instead of excitement, you get silence. You start changing your habits, and suddenly they say, you've changed, as if change is a bad thing. And they'll act like you're the problem for outgrowing the chaos, like you're wrong for wanting peace. It's like you're selfish for putting your dreams first. But you're not selfish, you're focused. And there's a big difference. Understand this. Not everyone is meant to go where you're going. Some people are a part of your story, but not your future. And when you start evolving, those people will either rise with you or try to hold you in place. And you'll start hearing things like, well, why are you working so hard? You think you're better than us now? Don't forget where you came from. That last one, that's the classic guilt trip. But here's the deal. You're not supposed to forget where you came from. You're supposed to outgrow it. You're supposed to evolve, to learn, to break the cycles that kept the generations before you stuck. And if they don't get it, that's okay. But don't let their confusion slow you down. Some people only support you when you're small enough to manage, when you're still easy to control, when you're still unsure, still stuck, still doubting yourself. But the moment you start standing up straighter, moving with purpose, protecting your peace, things shift. Suddenly, you're too busy. Suddenly, you're acting different. Suddenly, you're hard to reach. But here's the truth. They could have grown with you. They just didn't want to. It's easier for them if you stay the same, because then they don't have to look at their own lives and ask the hard questions, because then they don't have to admit they gave up when you didn't. Some of the most toxic people you'll ever deal with won't be strangers. They'll be the ones sitting at your dinner table, the ones who've known you the longest, the ones who helped shape you and now feel threatened watching you change. It doesn't always come from hate, and sometimes it comes from their own pain. They might not believe in themselves, so they struggle to believe in you. They might have tried once, failed, and never got back up. So now they assume no one else can either. Their limitation becomes their worldview. But just because they don't see it doesn't mean it's not real for you. Just because they settled doesn't mean you have to. Just because they chose fear doesn't mean you should. You have to be willing to disappoint some people in order to grow. You have to be okay with being misunderstood. You have to stop explaining your purpose to people who are committed to staying confused. Because here's the bottom line. If you keep trying to make everyone comfortable, you'll stay small. If you keep watering down your vision to fit their mindset, you'll never break through. If you keep waiting for permission, you'll never get started. You were not born to stay in the same spot forever. You were not made to fit into the box someone else drew around you. You were meant to expand, to stretch, to lead, even if it means walking alone for a while. And yes, it gets lonely sometimes. Yes, it hurts when people you love can't celebrate with you. But you know what hurts more? Shrinking for the rest of your life just to keep people close. You don't need that kind of loyalty. You need truth. You need growth. You need to breathe. Let them go if they don't get it. Let them talk. Let them doubt. Let them assume. Because while they're watching and whispering, you'll be building, you'll be growing, you'll be proving that staying small just to be liked is the fastest way to hate yourself later. This isn't about cutting everyone off or being arrogant. This is about choosing yourself, choosing your purpose over approval, choosing your peace over fake support, choosing your future over their comfort. You don't owe anyone your potential. You don't owe them your silence. You don't owe them a watered down version of you just to make them feel better. You owe yourself the chance to see what happens when you stop playing small. Because the moment you stop holding back, the moment you fully step into your power, the people meant for you will show up. The ones who don't flinch when you win, the ones who clap when you rise, the ones who aren't afraid of your shine. And when that happens, you'll realize you were never too much. You were just around people who wanted you to be less. Not all advice is meant for you. One of the biggest mistakes people make is thinking that all advice is good advice. It's not. Just because someone's older doesn't mean they're wiser. Just because they've been through something doesn't mean they learned the right lesson. And just because they speak with confidence doesn't mean they're telling the truth. Some advice comes from fear. Some comes from failure. Some comes from insecurity, dressed up as I'm just trying to help. You have to learn how to filter what you hear, not absorb everything just because it sounds smart. Everyone has opinions. That doesn't make them qualified to guide your life. You've probably been told things like, play it safe. Don't aim too high. Make sure you have a backup plan. Be realistic. Sounds harmless, right? But those phrases can quietly kill your dreams if you're not careful. They wrap fear in polite language. They sound wise, but they come from a place of limitation, from people who never tried or tried once and gave up. You need to ask yourself, where is this advice coming from? Is it coming from wisdom or from wounds? Because there's a difference between someone who failed and learned and someone who failed and never recovered. The first person can teach you. The second person will try to limit you. You've got to protect your mind from borrowed fear because fear is contagious. One person's doubt can become your hesitation. One person's bad experience can become your excuse. And that's how you start living a life that isn't even yours. Think about it. You had an idea. You felt excited. You believed in it. Then someone said, I don't know, that's risky. And suddenly you're second guessing yourself. Why? Because you gave that voice more weight than it deserved. Because you assumed they knew better. Because you forgot that they don't have your vision. And that's the problem. Most people are trying to give advice on a story they're not even part of. They don't know what you feel. They don't know what you're capable of. They're judging your path through the lens of their own limits. You have to stop letting people who haven't built anything give you building plans. Would you take fitness advice from someone who's never stepped in a gym? Would you take financial advice from someone drowning in debt? Would you take relationship advice from someone who's bitter and stuck? No? Then stop taking life advice from people who gave up on living. And this doesn't mean you should never listen. There are people who've earned the right to be heard, people who've been where you're going, who tell the truth even when it's hard, who want to see you win even when it's not easy for them. Those voices matter. But most of what you'll hear in life, it's noise, it's unfiltered emotion, it's fear wearing a helpful mask. And if you don't learn how to filter it out, you'll carry weight that was never meant for you. You'll end up playing small because someone else didn't believe big. You'll talk yourself out of dreams just to fit into someone else's comfort zone. That's not wisdom, that's sabotage. Let's break it down. Before you take someone's advice, ask yourself, do they live in alignment with what I want for myself? Are they speaking from courage or from fear? Are they offering real insight or just venting their own doubt? If the answer is unclear, here's a good rule. Sit with it before you act on it. Sometimes advice feels good in the moment, but it poisons your mindset over time. It sounds helpful, but plant seeds of self doubt that grow quietly in the background. And that's why you have to protect your mental garden. And you wouldn't let anyone walk into your house and dump trash all over the floor. So why let them dump garbage into your head? Why let them drop negativity into your spirit? Your mindset is your most valuable asset. And here's the truth: most people aren't trying to hurt you. They think they're being helpful. They're giving the advice they wish someone gave them. But their pain isn't your blueprint. Their fear isn't your foundation. And you get to decide what you carry. You get to choose what thoughts take root. You get to say, thanks for sharing, and still walk your own way. Because the people who actually win in life, they don't follow the crowd. They don't listen to every opinion. They listen to their gut, their vision, their calling, and they trust themselves enough to take advice with a grain of salt, even if it comes from someone they love. That's a hard lesson, but it's necessary, because sometimes the people closest to you are the ones holding you back the most, not out of hate, but out of fear that you'll outgrow them. And you'll hear things like, oh, that's too risky. You don't have the experience. Like, people like us don't do that kind of stuff. Like that last one, that's the most dangerous of all. People like us. Translation: stay in your lane. Translation: don't be different. Translation: don't believe you're capable of more, but you are. You don't have to repeat their patterns. You don't have to carry their fear. You don't have to live inside their limits. Your story is your own, and your vision is your responsibility. Your growth is your job, not theirs. So the next time someone gives you advice, pause, thank them, and then ask yourself, does this advice push me toward who I want to become, or pull me back into who I used to be? If it pulls you back, let it go, because not all advice is meant for you. Some of it is meant to test you, to see if you'll fold under pressure or rise with clarity. Choose clarity, choose growth, choose your own voice. Solitude is where you rebuild. Most people fear being alone, not because they're truly lonely, but because silence strips away the noise they've been using to hide from themselves. It's not the absence of people that scares them, it's the presence of their own truth. See, when you're surrounded by noise, you don't have to deal with the stuff inside. You don't have to confront your habits, your guilt, your missed potential. You just keep going, keep talking, keep busy. But take all of that away, and now it's just you. No more distractions and no more excuses. Just you and everything you've avoided. And that's exactly why solitude matters, because it's in that quiet space that you start rebuilding, not pretending, not performing, not faking, just rebuilding piece by piece. Here's the truth that nobody likes to say out loud. And some people stay in toxic relationships not because they're in love, but because they're scared of being alone. Some people keep the same circle even when it's draining them, just because they don't want to sit by themselves. And some people stay busy, keep working, keep socializing, not because it's healthy, but because solitude forces them to feel. But growth doesn't happen in the crowd. Healing doesn't happen when you're surrounded by chaos. Clarity doesn't show up in noise. It shows up in stillness, in the quiet moments, in the alone time. And yeah, it's uncomfortable. Yeah, it hits hard, but that's the beginning of real change. Like, you can't rebuild yourself while you're still clinging to the pieces of a broken past. And you can't start a new chapter if you're scared to be alone with the ending of the last one. Sometimes you have to walk away, not because you hate anyone, but because you finally love yourself enough to stop being drained. That might mean cutting ties, and that might mean saying no more often, and that might mean choosing a Friday night alone over another round of fake conversations. Because when you sit in solitude long enough, you begin to see the truth. You start noticing what fuels you and what empties you. You start recognizing which habits are helping you heal and which ones are just helping you hide. Solitude teaches you how to separate real connection from fake comfort. It shows you how to be your own friend, and it forces you to develop the kind of self-respect that doesn't need approval from anyone. You start asking better questions. Why am I Shabati? Why am I still chasing people who don't respect me? Why do I keep explaining myself to those who never cared to understand? Why am I afraid of being alone when I already feel lonely around these people? That's what solitude reveals, the truth you've been too distracted to see. It's not a punishment, it's a reset, it's a clean slate. It's the first step to becoming someone new. And when you rebuild in solitude, something powerful happens. You stop tolerating things that don't fit the new version of you. You stop chasing approval. You stop answering calls from people who drain you. You stop lowering your standards just to keep someone around because you finally built something stronger, peace. And peace doesn't beg, peace doesn't argue, peace doesn't force. It just exists. And once you've felt it, once you've protected it, you don't give it away easily. People might not understand the changes in you. That's okay. They're not supposed to. They didn't sit in silence with you. They didn't cry with you. They didn't rebuild you. You did that alone. So, no, you don't owe anyone an explanation for your peace. You don't owe anyone access just because they knew the old you. You don't have to go back to who you were just to make them comfortable. Solitude builds self awareness. Self awareness builds standards. Standards build the life you've been dreaming about. And yeah, it's quiet. Yeah, it's lonely sometimes, but you'll learn to love that space because in solitude, you finally meet the version of you that's been buried under expectations, noise, and other people's opinions. You meet the version of you that doesn't settle, that knows who they are, that walks with calm confidence. It's not ego, it's alignment. It's not isolation, it's healing. So if you're in a season of solitude right now, don't run from it and lean into it. Use it, let it teach you. Ask yourself, what needs to be let go of? What do I need to unlearn? What does my peace actually look like? Let those answers shape the new you. And when the world starts getting loud again, when people start asking where you've been, just smile because they'll never understand what it took to rebuild what they couldn't even see was broken. Solitude isn't the end of your story, and it's the chapter where everything changes. Discipline is greater than motivation. Motivation feels good, but it's not enough. And it's loud, it's exciting, it makes you believe you can do anything. But when the hype fades and the real work starts, motivation disappears. And if all you've built your life on is motivation, you'll quit. Discipline is what keeps you going after motivation leaves the room. Everyone loves the idea of being great until they realize how boring greatness actually is. It's not flashing lights. It's not constant praise. It's routine. It's doing the same thing over and over, even when you don't feel like it. That's what discipline is. And motivation will tell you, let's do this. Discipline says, do it anyway. Motivation will hype you up on Monday, and discipline is what drags you out of bed on Thursday when you're tired, sore, and mentally drained. Motivation shows up when it's convenient. Discipline shows up when it's necessary. And that's why discipline always wins. And let's be honest, there are days you don't want to show up. You don't want to write. You don't want to train. You don't want to study. You don't want to keep pushing. That's normal. But success doesn't care how you feel. Your goals don't care if you're in the mood. The life you say you want isn't waiting on your emotions to align. It's waiting on your action. And that action comes from discipline. And discipline is what builds character. It's what builds consistency. It's what builds results. You want to know why some people keep making progress while others stay stuck? It's not talent. It's not intelligence. It's not luck. It's discipline. And the ones who win are the ones who keep showing up day after day, even when it's boring, even when it's hard, even when nobody's watching. Discipline is doing what needs to be done, even when nobody will ever clap for it. Nobody sees the hours you spend practicing. Nobody sees the meals you skip, the plans you cancel, the sacrifices you make. But it adds up. And over time, it turns into power. And the truth is, motivation is emotional. It depends on how you feel. But discipline is a decision. It's not about being in the mood. It's about making a commitment and keeping it even when you're tired, even when you're frustrated, even when the results haven't shown up yet. Because that's the test. Like, can you keep moving when progress feels invisible? Can you stay focused when nothing is going your way? Can you stay locked in when the motivation is completely gone? If the answer is yes, that's discipline. That's what makes you dangerous. That's what separates you from the crowd. See, anyone can get hyped up for a week, Anyone can grind for a few days, but discipline is about the long haul. It's about stacking small wins. It's about showing up 100 times when only 5 of those days felt inspired. You want mental strength? You want to be unstoppable? Stop depending on how you feel and start depending on what you've decided. Discipline means your goals come before your mood. Your purpose comes before your comfort. Your mission comes before your excuses. Most people never reach their full potential because they keep waiting to feel ready. But you'll never always feel ready. You'll never always feel motivated. You'll never always feel strong. And that's okay. Because real winners, they move anyway. They act anyway. They stay disciplined, especially when they feel weak. That's the moment it counts. Anyone can keep going when they feel good, but it's the ones who keep going when they feel nothing. That's who builds something real. And here's the other thing: discipline is learned. It's not something you're born with, it's something you practice. Every time you choose structure over laziness, every time you say no to something tempting but unimportant, every time you keep a promise you made to yourself, you're building it. And the more you practice discipline, the stronger it gets. It becomes your default setting. You stop negotiating with yourself. You stop needing hype. You just get it done because deep down, you know what's at stake. You know what kind of life you're fighting for. You know that if you don't show up, nobody's going to do it for you. So stop relying on bursts of inspiration. Stop waiting for perfect conditions. Start showing up anyway, because discipline is freedom. It frees you from guilt. It frees you from regret. It frees you from the roller coaster of emotion that most people live on. And that freedom, that control over your actions, that's what creates real power. And so ask yourself, am I showing up only when I feel like it? Or am I building the discipline to show up no matter what? Because your future depends on that answer. Discipline doesn't ask if you're in the mood. It asks if you're committed. And once you make that decision, really make it. Nothing can stop you. A weak mind breaks before the world touches it. The world doesn't even have to hit you hard. If your mind is weak, you'll break long before life ever does. Most people don't fail because they weren't good enough. They fail because they weren't mentally ready for the pressure. They didn't build the discipline. They didn't prepare for the hard days. They waited for things to get easy, and when they didn't, they quit. Let me tell you something. Life doesn't go easy on anyone. Not the talented, not the smart, not the gifted. And if your mindset isn't solid, it doesn't matter how skilled you are, you will fold the moment things get uncomfortable, because pressure doesn't build weakness. Pressure exposes it. And if you've been avoiding discomfort your whole life, if every time something gets hard, you take the easy route, then don't be surprised when your life stays the same. Every challenge you face is a test, not of your talent, of your mind, your patience, your resilience, your decision to keep going when everything in you wants to stop. Weak minds get shaken by opinions. Strong minds don't. Weak minds wait for motivation. Strong minds use discipline. Weak minds back down when things get uncertain. Strong minds lean in, because a strong mind doesn't rely on how it feels in the moment. It's driven by what it knows it has to do. Look around. Most people aren't living the life they want, not because they're not capable, but because they believed every fear that came into their mind, every doubt, every delay, every little excuse that told them you can't. They didn't question those thoughts, and they let them stay. And those thoughts became their mindset, and that mindset became their life. That's how people stay stuck. That's how people with big dreams end up with small lives, because they train their minds to believe weakness was permanent, that if something felt too hard, it wasn't meant to be. But strength is a decision. It's choosing not to believe every emotion. It's learning to say, I feel like quitting, but I won't. I'm scared, but I'm still moving. I'm tired, but I'm showing up anyway. You build a strong mind the same way you build a strong body, by resistance. The more you resist weakness, the more strength you develop. And it doesn't matter if it's a workout, a relationship, a business, or your healing. There will be pain. There will be pressure. There will be times when it feels like it's not worth it. That's the point. That's the training. That's the fire that forges your focus. Because let me tell you, if your mind is soft, the world will walk all over you. It will take your time, your confidence, your energy, and leave you wondering why you never feel in control. You need to toughen up your thinking. You need to learn how to take a hit and not fall apart. You need to teach yourself how to hear no and still keep going. You need to get comfortable being uncomfortable. That's not toxic positivity, that's survival. Because life will not slow down just because you're tired. Obstacles won't vanish because you're having a rough day. And opportunities won't wait while you rebuild your confidence. You either show up with strength or you get left behind. And this isn't about being perfect. This is about being prepared. Prepared for bad days, prepared for moments of self doubt, prepared for criticism, failure, silence, and setbacks because they are coming. No matter how talented you are, no matter how good your intentions are, no matter how kind, disciplined, or smart you try to be, life will still test you. And the question is, have you trained your mind for the fight? Because weak minds lose before the battle even starts. They overthink, they second guess, they talk themselves out of the win, and then they blame life or people or timing. But it wasn't life, it was mindset. A weak mind needs permission. A strong mind creates its own lane. A weak mind waits for perfect conditions. A strong mind works with what it's got right now. A weak mind quits after the first failure. A strong mind understands that failure is just part of the process. And if you want to build a future that lasts, if you want success that actually sticks, you need a mind that doesn't fall apart under pressure. Because your mindset is the filter for every experience you go through. A weak filter lets in every fear, every doubt, every insult. A strong filter blocks out the noise and locks in the mission. That's what separates the ones who talk from the ones who do, the ones who wish from the ones who build. So stop hoping that life will get easier. Start training for it to get tougher. Wake up and do the hard things. Choose the option that challenges you. Say no to things that don't grow you. Stay focused when distraction is screaming. Stay grounded when opinions get loud. Stay consistent when results don't show up yet. That's what makes a mind unshakable. That's what makes a life unbreakable. So ask yourself right now, am I training my mind or am I letting it control me? Because if you don't take charge, your mind will run wild. It will feed you fear. It will replay failure. It will magnify every weakness unless you fight back, unless you make the decision every single day to train your thoughts, master your emotions, and show up with strength. Because in the end, your body can be strong, your talent can be sharp, your potential can be limitless. But if your mind is weak, none of it matters. So build the mind first, and the rest will follow. Comparison destroys confidence. You could be building something great, something real, something powerful, and all it takes is one glance at someone else's life to make you forget how far you've come. That's the trap of comparison. It doesn't just steal your joy, it erases your focus. It rewires your mind to believe that what you have, what you've done, and who you are isn't enough. And the crazy part, most of the time you're comparing yourself to a lie. People don't post their struggles. They don't share their breakdowns. They don't advertise the nights they cried themselves to sleep. They just show the highlight reel, the perfect lighting, the edited moments, the filtered wins. And you're comparing all of that to your behind the scenes, to your real, uncut, messy process, to your doubts, your bad days, your grind. That's not a fair fight. And deep down, you know it, but it still gets in your head, doesn't it? You see someone hit a milestone you're still chasing, you see them getting recognition you feel you've earned, and suddenly your progress doesn't feel like progress anymore. And suddenly you start rushing your growth. You start panicking, second guessing, wondering if you're already too late. But hear this, you're not late. You're on your path. Your story was never supposed to match theirs. Your pace was never supposed to look like theirs. Your journey is yours for a reason. And the second you start measuring your worth by someone else's success, you lose control of your own narrative. Comparison turns your wins into not enough. And it turns your effort into insecurity. It turns your potential into pressure, and you start chasing what looks right, not what feels right. You start making decisions out of anxiety instead of alignment. And you start shrinking, not because you're failing, but because you think you should be further. But further, according to who? Who told you that your timeline was off? Who told you that their win meant you were losing? That's the lie comparison feeds you, that success is limited, that if someone else is doing well, it somehow takes something from you. It doesn't. Their shine doesn't dim yours. Their blessing doesn't cancel yours. Their moment doesn't mean yours isn't coming. So instead of wasting energy watching their lane, focus on your own, because that's the only one you can control. That's the only one you're responsible for. That's the only one where your power actually exists. Comparison creates impatience, and impatience leads to shortcuts. And shortcuts often lead to regret. You start doing things you wouldn't normally do. You chase quick wins instead of long-term growth. You ignore your own progress just to keep up with a pace that was never meant for you. You need to slow down, zoom out, remind yourself why you started. You didn't come this far to end up copying someone else. You didn't work this hard to end up in a race you never signed up for. You came to build something honest, something that fits you. And that doesn't happen when your eyes are on someone else's plate. Here's the truth. Your only real competition is who you were yesterday. That's it. If you're growing, you're winning. If you're learning, you're winning. If you're showing up, even when it's hard, you're winning. Nobody posts their doubts, their financial stress, their emotional breakdowns. Nobody shows how many nights they wanted to quit but didn't. So stop comparing your raw moments to someone else's polished version, and stop confusing visibility with value. Just because they're seen doesn't mean they're ahead. And just because you're quiet right now doesn't mean you're behind. Your process matters. Your pace matters, and your peace matters more than anything, because confidence isn't built through applause. It's built through alignment, and it's built when you stop trying to be better than everyone else and focus on being better than the version of you who started this whole thing. So start asking better questions. Not why aren't I where they are, but am I staying true to my path? Am I becoming who I want to be? Am I proud of how I show up? That's what matters, because at the end of the day, this life is yours. You're the one who has to live with the choices. You're the one who has to sit with the regrets or the results. And that means you better be doing it for yourself, not to outdo somebody else. The people you're comparing yourself to, they have struggles you can't see. They fight battles in private. They carry pain behind the wins. Nobody's life is perfect. So stop chasing the illusion of perfection. Start chasing peace. Start chasing growth. Start chasing you, your goals, your vision, your rhythm. Because once you stop comparing, something powerful happens. You start enjoying your own journey. You start noticing your own progress. You start appreciating how far you've actually come. And that gratitude, that's the foundation of confidence. You stop trying to catch up. You stop trying to prove anything. You just work quietly, consistently, powerfully. And that's when you truly become unstoppable, not because you're better than them, but because you're finally done trying to be. Let go or be dragged. You can't carry the past and still move forward. At some point, you either let go or you get dragged, dragging pain, dragging old stories, dragging guilt, resentment, and regret through every step of your life, wondering why you feel stuck. It's because you're trying to run while holding anchors. And no matter how strong your legs are, you can't outrun what's still chained to your back. Letting go isn't weakness. It's not giving up. It's not pretending nothing happened. Letting go is strength. It's clarity. It's choosing peace over pain. But here's the thing. Most people don't realize how much they're holding on to. They carry conversations from 5 years ago. They replay mistakes they already apologized for. They hold grudges against people who've already moved on. And they wonder why they're so tired. It's not just life wearing you down. It's what you refuse to release. We hold on because we think it protects us. If I stay angry, I won't get hurt again. If I remember every wrong, I won't be caught off guard. If I carry this pain, it'll remind me to never trust again. But pain isn't protection, it's a prison. It locks you into moments that don't exist anymore, moments that are over, but you're still living in them like they're happening today. You can't build a future if you're still trying to fix a past that can't be changed. At some point, you have to accept it. What's done is done. What happened, happened. You're not going back. And that's okay, because letting go doesn't mean you're erasing the past. It means you're no longer letting it control you. Some of you are still carrying versions of yourself that don't exist anymore. The version that failed, the version that got hurt, the version that didn't know better, the version that stayed too long, trusted too fast, gave too much. But you're not that person now. You've grown, you've learned, you've survived. So why are you still holding on to their pain? You can't step into the future with an identity rooted in who you used to be. Let it go. Let go of the guilt. Let go of the resentment. Let go of the apology you never got. Let go of the closure that never came. Let go of the fantasy that the past could have been different. And because every time you choose to carry it, you choose to stay stuck. And here's something you got to understand. You don't have to carry something just because you experienced it. Yes, it happened. Yes, it hurt, but you don't have to relive it every day. You don't have to keep it close just to prove it mattered. The impact is real, but so is your right to move on. And some of the weight you're carrying was never yours to hold in the first place. You've been blaming yourself for things that weren't your fault, carrying shame for choices you made while in survival mode, punishing yourself for not knowing then what you know now. You don't need to keep paying for a mistake you've already outgrown. You're not your worst day. You're not your lowest moment. You're not the person they made you believe you were. Let it go. And yes, letting go is hard. Yes, it feels like loss. But what you're really losing is the weight that's been slowing you down, because the moment you let go, you gain something bigger: peace, freedom, clarity, breathing room. You create space for new opportunities. You open your hands to receive instead of constantly gripping what's already broken. And when you let go, you finally start moving with power again. You stop making decisions out of fear. You stop reacting to old triggers. You stop being controlled by people who aren't even in your life anymore. You take your life back, and it's not always clean. Sometimes letting go means grieving what you wanted so badly to work. Sometimes it means walking away from someone you still love, but who doesn't love you in the way you deserve. Sometimes it means cutting ties with the version of you that was addicted to pain, to chaos, to drama. But freedom is worth it, because you weren't created to live bitter. You weren't designed to be stuck. You weren't meant to spend your life managing pain instead of building something new. So ask yourself, what am I still holding on to that's already behind me? What version of myself am I still protecting even though I've outgrown it? What pain have I become so used to that I've mistaken it for identity? It's time. Let go. You don't need their apology. You don't need their explanation. You don't need closure. You don't need validation. You don't need them to understand. You just need your own permission to be free. You're not weak for wanting to move on. You're strong for finally choosing yourself. So let go or keep being dragged. The choice is yours. Don't wait for the world to clap. Stop waiting for people to notice. Stop waiting for the applause. Stop holding your breath for validation that might never come. Because if you need a crowd to believe in your dream, you'll never build it. You've got to be okay building in silence, grinding in private, leveling up without an audience. That's where real strength shows up. That's where legends are made, not in the spotlight, but in the shadows, not when everyone's watching, but when no one is. The problem is most people need someone clapping for them just to keep going. And if they don't get likes, they slow down. If no one's hyping them up, they start doubting. If their effort isn't recognized, they assume it's not worth it. But here's the truth. Your progress still counts, even if no one's talking about it. Your discipline is still powerful, even if nobody sees it. Your quiet work still matters, even if nobody says good job. The journey isn't about getting noticed. It's about getting better. Let that sink in, because the world doesn't owe you recognition. You're not doing this to impress anyone. You're doing this to change your life. So stop explaining and stop announcing. Stop trying to convince people to take you seriously. Just keep moving. You don't have to tell everyone what you're working on. You don't have to justify your schedule. You don't need to break down your plans for people who wouldn't understand them anyway. You know what works? Execution, results, consistency. You want to shut people up? Outgrow them, outwork them, outlast them. That's how you prove them wrong, not with words, but with action. Because the loudest person in the room isn't always the strongest. In fact, the ones making the most noise usually don't have much going on. Real power moves in silence. Real focus doesn't announce itself. It just works. You don't need attention. You need discipline. You don't need claps. You need commitment. That's what makes the difference. There are people who talk a lot and do nothing. And then there are people who say nothing and do everything. Be the second type. Let your work speak so loud that it makes noise even when you don't say a word. Think about every great person you admire. They didn't make it by posting every move, and they built when no one was looking, and they sacrificed. They stayed consistent, and then they showed up one day with something undeniable. That's your job. Stay low, work smart, be patient, because the world may not clap at first. They may not understand what you're building. They may doubt you, ignore you. They may laugh at you in the beginning, but later they'll ask how you did it. They'll want your help. They'll act like they always believed in you. And when that day comes, don't get caught up in proving anything, and just keep building, and let your growth do the talking. Let your lifestyle show the results. Because when you're really locked in, claps don't distract you anymore. You stop performing. You stop begging to be seen. You stop chasing approval from people who couldn't even handle your vision if they tried. And that's where peace comes from. You build for yourself. You build for your family. You build for your purpose, not for validation, not for status, not for likes. And when you build like that, no one can take it from you, because it's real, it's rooted, it's yours. So if you're in a season right now where nobody's noticing, good. Let them sleep on you. Let them think you're not doing much. Let them assume you've got nothing going on. That's your power. That's your advantage. Because while they're watching the loud ones, you're preparing, you're growing, you're stacking wins quietly. And one day they'll look up and you'll be far ahead, not because you were the flashiest, but because you were the most focused. So keep your head down and keep your circle tight, keep your energy clean, and most importantly, keep showing up, because your moment is coming, but it's not about the moment. It's about what you've built when nobody was clapping. And that's what makes it last. And that's what makes it real. That's what separates you. Your mind is either a weapon or a trap. Your mind is either your sharpest weapon or the thing that takes you down before life even gets a chance to. It can build you, push you, fuel you, or it can break you, trap you, and convince you that you're powerless. The difference, how you train it. Most people never learn to manage their thoughts. They let their mind run wild like an untrained animal. Thoughts of fear, doubt, insecurity, regret, and they believe every single one of them, and they don't realize their life is just a reflection of what they've been thinking. If your thoughts are weak, your life will be weak. If your thoughts are all fear, your choices will be small. If your thoughts are always worst case scenarios, your actions will always be half-hearted. You'll never go all in if your mind is constantly whispering, what if you fail? And here's the truth. You will never be stronger than your mindset. You can have all the skills, all the goals, all the talent, but if your mind is cluttered with garbage, it'll sabotage everything you try to build. A negative mindset will find a problem in every solution. A fearful mind will see risk in every opportunity. An undisciplined mind will make excuses every time things get uncomfortable. That's the trap. But your mind can also be trained to be your greatest asset. It can become a tool that works for you, not against you. You can learn to direct your focus, to silence doubt, to question fear, to replace panic with power. But it takes work. It takes effort. It takes discipline. You can't train your body once a week and expect to be strong. Same with your mind. You've got to train it daily. You've got to protect what goes in, and you've got to challenge the thoughts that hold you back, because not every thought you think is true and not every fear you feel is real. You've got to stop letting your emotions run the show. Thoughts come and go, but you don't have to believe all of them. You can observe them without attaching to them. You can feel fear without obeying it. You can have a negative thought without letting it drive your next move. That's mental strength. That's what separates people who rise from people who fold. Strong minds aren't perfect. They just don't surrender to every thought that shows up. They know how to pause and they know how to breathe through the doubt. They know how to zoom out and look at the bigger picture. And they understand that feelings are real, but they're not final. And that's the shift you need to make. And your mind is constantly collecting input from your environment, from your phone, from people you talk to, from the things you watch, the conversations you listen to. And if you don't filter that input, it becomes your inner voice. So if you surround yourself with fear, you'll think fearful thoughts. And if you constantly listen to people who complain, your mind will start to do the same. If you feed your brain garbage, you'll feel like garbage. You've got to be intentional. You've got to treat your mind like a battlefield because every day you're in a war between the thoughts that will move you forward and the thoughts that will keep you stuck. And the winner, the one you feed. So feed your mind truth, feed it strength, feed it reminders of who you really are, not who your fear says you are. When a negative thought shows up, ask it like, where's the proof? Is this helping me or hurting me? Would I say this to someone I love? If not, let it go. Stop giving your mental energy to thoughts that would never build you. Your mind isn't just a place for thinking, it's where your identity is shaped, where your decisions are born, where your future is being written right now. So ask yourself, are you building a mind that supports your goals or one that sabotages them? Are you training your brain to stay focused or letting it get hijacked by distractions? Are you filling your mind with strength or letting fear have a front row seat? Because you can't afford to be casual with your mind. You can't expect to live a strong life with weak thoughts. You can't expect to build something powerful if your mind breaks under pressure, and pressure will come. That's not a maybe, that's a guarantee. The question is, will your mind hold up? Will it rise when everything's falling apart? Will it stay grounded when chaos hits? Will it stay committed when things get hard? If it's trained, it will. If it's disciplined, it will. If it's been built with intention, nothing can take it down. But if it's filled with clutter, chaos, and weakness, it'll crumble. No matter how talented you are, no matter how much potential you have, no matter how bad you want it. So build the weapon, sharpen your mind, guard it, feed it, use it. Because if you don't control your thoughts will control you. And if your mind becomes your trap, you'll stay stuck forever. But if it becomes your weapon, you'll be unstoppable. You are the investment. And people talk about investing in stocks, in real estate, in businesses, in anything that promises a return. But the truth is, you are the greatest investment you will ever make. Not your job, not your followers, not your bank account, you. Because everything you want in life, your health, your success, your relationships, your confidence, it all flows from who you are and how much you've poured into becoming your best self. If you don't take care of you, nothing else works. If your mind is weak, your emotions will run the show. If your body is broken, your energy won't keep up. If your habits are messy, your progress will always be temporary. If your environment is toxic, your peace will never last. That's why you've got to stop waiting for someone else to save you, fix you, or tell you what to do. No one's coming. It's on you now. You've got to be the one who says, I matter enough to work on myself, not just when it's convenient, not just when things go wrong. Every single day, you got to start seeing yourself like something worth pouring into. Because if you can spend hours watching TV, scrolling your feed, worrying about other people's lives, then you have time to invest in your own. Read more, train harder, eat better, sleep deeper, think clearer, love yourself louder. And these aren't soft things, these are survival skills. And because life isn't going to slow down so you can catch up, it's going to keep moving with or without you. And if you're not growing, you're falling behind. Growth isn't about constant hustle, it's about intentional effort, small decisions every day. Wake up a little earlier, learn something new, practice discipline, cut out one bad habit, add one good one, it stacks, it compounds, and eventually it becomes a lifestyle that turns into a future you're actually proud of. But the opposite is true too. Neglect stacks, excuses pile up, distractions become addictions, and suddenly you look around and wonder, how did I get here? You got there by ignoring the one thing that matters most, you. Stop giving your energy to things that don't help you grow. Stop chasing people who don't pour back into you. Stop wasting your days living for the weekend. Stop living like your life is on pause, waiting for a moment that'll never come. You are the moment, and you are the project, and you are the priority, and nobody else is going to put you first if you don't. You want to change your life? Start by changing what you do with your time, your focus, your effort. Look at your calendar, look at your habits, look at your circle. Do those things reflect who you want to become? If not, change them because your future is being shaped by what you do today, not next month, not next year, today. And you don't need to do everything at once. And you don't need to be perfect. You just need to take it seriously because the greatest tragedy isn't failing, it's never even trying. It's living a small life because you never believed you were worth the investment, but you are. You're worth the early mornings, the sweat, the hard conversations, the discipline, and the boundaries, the extra reps, the extra effort, the lonely nights where you're focused while everyone else is distracted. Because all of that, it adds up and it shows not overnight, but over time. The results come, the confidence comes, the clarity comes. Then suddenly you look in the mirror and realize you built this and nobody can take it from you. Not because it was given, but because you earned it. So if you're tired of starting over, if you're tired of feeling stuck, if you're tired of watching life pass you by, then this is your moment and not a year from now, not when you're ready. Now, start small, start where you are, but start because the clock doesn't pause for anyone. And you'll never regret investing in yourself, but you will regret wasting the chance to become who you were born to be. So lock in, focus up, and remember, you are the asset, you are the return, you are the investment, and it's time to treat yourself like it.